The NFL playoffs are finally here. We got 6 wild card matchups coming up this weekend that I'm going to talk about in this podcast. We got 2 matchups on Saturday, 3 on Sunday, and 1 on Monday night, which will be the final Monday night game of the year. The NFL head coaching market has also taken a turn as Harbaugh, since my last podcast, was fired, as well as Mike McDaniel. So new guys looking for jobs as well as new jobs opening. And the Cardinals are finally doing right by a player for the first time in a couple of years, as Brendan Donovan is signed before they hit arbitration. So, just a little golf clap to the Cardinals for that. A lot more coming up in this episode of the Papa Sherrill podcast. Let's get into it. All right, let's start with the good news. Brendan Donovan signed for 1 year, $5.8 million deal agreed upon between the Cardinals and Brendan Donovan. MLB trade rumors had projected, as you can see, for Brendan Donovan to earn $5.4 million. This just, the reason I'm kind of satirical about it is Ryan Helsley, if you remember, a couple of years ago, the Cardinals fought in arbitration over a couple $100,000. That was really at the peak of Helsley, like when he was playing as well as he was, and we saw them end up trading Helsley. Helsley didn't come back to the Cardinals. He signs a good deal with the Orioles. I can't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but the Orioles are spending some money over this offseason. Pete Alonso and Ryan Helsley both getting signed by the Baltimore Orioles over the offseason. It's been an interesting offseason so far. I didn't expect the Orioles to spend money like they had. I'm not going to spend too much time on baseball. Just want to start off the pod with some positive news about the St. Louis Cardinals. But when EDJ returns, we will discuss more baseball, go a little bit deeper into it, talk Royals and Cardinals. But I thought this was worth mentioning on the pod. Brendan Donovan, 1 more year in St. Louis. Of course, there was rumors of him being traded as well. Already, Wilson Contreras has been traded. Sonny Gray has been traded. The Cardinals are definitely going through a rebuilding process at the moment, or at least it looks like that's what they're trying to do. We'll see. A team that notoriously hasn't spent a lot of money. You know, they will from time to time spend money, but, you know, we saw the trade for Arenado and Goldschmidt, and both of them having MVP caliber seasons. The Cardinals not able to capitalize, so we're kind of on the other side of that. With Arenado still being rostered as well, there's obviously still potential for the Cardinals to make more moves. Next up, how could I forget? In the whole intro, I totally forgot to talk about Mizzou Football, as the transfer portal has opened and things have been happening. And as you can see on the screen here, incoming transfers for the Missouri Tigers. Luke Work, coming from Mississippi State, Cincinnati Bearcat Caleb Goody. Austin Simmons from the Ole Miss Rebels will join the Missouri Tigers at quarterback, 4-star recruit. I am really excited to see what Austin Simmons can do. He was the starter originally at Ole Miss this season. Obviously, he got taken over by Chambliss, which, funny enough, I've got the game on right now as I'm recording. Late in the first quarter now, 3-0 Miami up on Ole Miss in the Fiesta Bowl. So by the time this is out, we'll probably know who the winner of this game was. But I think Austin Simmons is a very interesting, kid to go out and get for the Missouri Tigers. Not really someone that I was looking at originally. I know me and EDJ talked a couple of weeks ago after the bowl loss, and talking about the possibilities at quarterback, whether it was going to be Zollers. There's guys like Lagway out there who the Tigers were linked to as well. So we'll see how the Austin Simmons era at Mizzou goes. Obviously, Bo Perbula is back in the transfer portal. We'll see what ends up happening with him. Another one that I'm excited about, Robert Woodyard Jr. coming over from Auburn. They got a couple of recruits over from Auburn, as well as Kinsley Lador-Falston. That is a safety. So safety and a linebacker, as well as a safety from Notre Dame and Jadon Blair. I want to say he was a freshman, just spent 1 year at Notre Dame, so we'll see how that shakes out with the Tigers. Zollers, who has re-signed with Mizzou, I guess at this point is what we're saying, with the NIL deals, which is just kind of crazy using the re-signed terminology in college football at this point. I'm sure we'll all be used to it in a couple of years, but at the moment, it's still kind of weird. I'm probably going to butcher the name, Jyshawn Edwards. I'm very excited to see in a Missouri uniform. I don't know if we'll see much of him next year, but possibly 2027. We could see Edwards, or at least more of him, coming in at running back, as obviously you're still going to have Ahmad Hardy and Jamal Roberts, who both re-signed. Mizzou had quite a few transfers going out, so at least for him to come into the building, be a backup for a year, and then we'll see what we see out of Edwards. But obviously the Tigers aren't looking for starting running backs, at least for next season. But they did get their quarterback. So another 4-star, Horatio Fields, coming from Auburn, wide receiver, and cornerback Jaleel Florence out of Oregon. So now the departures is something to make note of, because we saw Damon Wilson, the second edge rusher. He entered the transfer portal, and that's one that I don't love. Obviously, Damon Wilson had a very good year this past season with the Missouri Tigers. Also got DeForest Jones, which understandable seeing any of the running backs transferring out. Jalen Early, another 4-star recruit, lost. Neither one of them has committed anywhere else. Other than that, I mean, Marquise Johnson, I think, will be one. Also, you look at Kevin Coleman, who came from Mississippi State last year. Now a Missouri Tiger going to Mississippi State, or wide receiver going from the Tigers to the Mississippi State Bulldogs. So see how Marquise Johnson pans out at Mississippi State. Bo Perbula has not committed anywhere just yet. I'm very interested to see where he ends up landing. That's really the biggest news. CJ Bass, a safety, withdrawed his transfer, so he is back with the Missouri Tigers. I think that the Tigers have gotten better through the portal so far. Damon Wilson's going to be a tough loss and going to be tough to figure out where they're going to go, especially with Trotter, Josiah Trotter, moving on to the NFL as well. The Mizzou defense does take a hit. I think the offense gets better, but the defense does take a hit. I haven't done much of a deep dive on Austin Simmons or really looked at much of his play yet, but I do plan to look at that over the next week or so. I've just been tied up with so much stuff, really, between just real life and trying to put some content together for you guys. So I guess that's a good transition point to transition off of Mizzou. The Noel Williams film breakdown came out earlier this week. If you haven't checked that out, go check that out. I'm going through the film right now in the Raiders game. I also got some fight film that I want to go over as UFC 324 approaches. I'm definitely going to be breaking down the Justin Gaethje and Paddy Pimblett fight, and kind of what I'm looking at going into the fight, but a full breakdown on Justin Gaethje and Paddy Pimblett heading into their fight at UFC 324. Very excited for that card, actually. You got Kayla Harrison, Amanda Nunes. So, anyways, subject at hand. Let me know what you guys think about the portal at the moment for the Missouri Tigers. It's been changing by the hour, pretty much, from what we've seen over the last few days. So obviously we got a ways to go with the portal, but here's where we're at right now. Missouri has a 4-star quarterback lined up. I think that they've, with Woodyard and maybe the safety from Auburn, I haven't seen much on him, but Robert Woodyard Jr., he had a solid season at Auburn, so I am excited to see him. Maybe he'll kind of replace Josiah Trotter a little bit. But either way, let me know your guys' thoughts on the portal for the Missouri Tigers so far. All right, wild card weekend, game number 1. We have the Rams and the Panthers slated to meet each other in the very first game of the weekend. Matt Stafford versus Bryce Young. It will be in Carolina, with LA being the wild card team, which is kind of wild when you look at the records. I can't remember, 8-9 for the Panthers, 12-5 for the Rams. I mean, that's insane. Obviously, there's a debate in this of, how do you seed for the playoffs? And I know it's been talked about a lot over the last few years, with the Rams having to go to Charlotte to play a team that doesn't even have a winning record in the playoffs. We saw this years ago with the Seattle Seahawks and the Beastquake, with Marshawn Lynch beating the Saints, who had to travel to play a 7-9 Seattle Seahawks team. It's up for debate for sure, but I am kind of more lenient to the side of go win your division then. If you want a home playoff game in the wild card weekend, go win your division. And the Rams could not do that. The Seahawks win that division and look extremely good. The Rams have looked really good. But down the stretch, I think that they've faltered a little bit. We'll see where that shakes up. I mean, I'm going with the Rams in this game. Matt Stafford has been playing at an elite level. I mean, he may be the MVP. That's something I haven't even really delved into too much to look at the numbers and who is the MVP. I've kind of, looked around, asked around of different posts that I've seen of like, who is your MVP? Because I haven't put a ton of thought into it this year, to be quite honest. But this is a fascinating game because the Panthers I think are still kind of at an upstart phase where you get Ted McMillan in. I think that Bryce Harper. I think that Bryce Young, I think he's a solid quarterback. I mean, I think that, he just needs to grow within his offense, and I think that he's done the necessary things to improve. Obviously, that first year was rough, but, I think Bryce Young has some upside in this league. And we've seen out other guys like Sam Darnold that has revitalized his career after the terrible time with the Jets, and then moving on to Minnesota. Obviously he spent some time with San Francisco, but now getting the deal with Seattle and leading them to a number 1 seed. I mean, yeah, even looking at the team metrics, I mean, when you look at the power rankings, overall, first the Rams, 26th for the Panthers. Defense, 11th versus 26th. First versus 26th in the offensive power ranking, which this is kind of crazy from PFF. I do understand. I mean, they were an 8-9 team. There's some better teams than the Panthers that are not in the playoffs, but having them ranked that low is kind of crazy to me. Just in a sense of, I mean, they did make the playoffs. They won the South, not on their own validity, I guess. I mean, that the most NFC South thing ever to happen, and I think I said this on Monday, but the fact that the division was decided by the 2 teams that we knew could not win the division, decided the winner of the division after the 2 teams battling over winning the division played on Saturday, and then on Sunday we watched Saints Falcons decide the fate of the Bucks and Panthers. Hilarious. Either way. I digress. I'm going Rams. I think that they, to a point, I don't think there's much of like dominating in the NFL anymore. And I just mean that as in scoreboard wise, as you don't see a ton of 40 to 10 games or something like that. The ebb and flow of the game is just, you see a team pull ahead, you see a team come back. You see team pull ahead, you see a team come back. Very much a lot of pendulum swinging in the NFL at this point. So I don't think it's going to be just a massive blowout, but I do think the Rams win by 10 or more. We'll see how this offense plays, because I am interested in the way that the Rams have kind of structured their offense and the way that they've kind of almost went away from Kyron Williams, at least for a couple of weeks there towards the end of the year. Blake Corum's got a much larger role in the offense. Devontae Adams going out, how that affects him. But Puka might be, top 10 receiver, top 5 probably in the league at the moment. I mean, you can give him anything and he will handle it pretty much. I mean, you look at him taking over some of the routes like Devontae would run. Puka is, and I say this as a dynasty fantasy manager that has had Puka since his rookie year, so I'm all in on Puka. But he's done a fantastic job. I saw a clip of a piece of film where he's running out of the B gap, running a route after coming across in motion. I mean, what the Rams do offensively, I expect them to just continue and expand upon in this game now that we're in the playoffs, and we'll really see Sean McVay, get weird with the offense, I guess, is the best way I can put it. And I'm here for all of it. So I got the Rams. Let's go 31-23. Rams win in short. Next up, Saturday night at 7 o'clock, we have the Packers visiting the Bears. It's always fun to get divisional matchups in the playoffs because shout out to Ray because I tell Ray this all the time. Divisional matchups are weird. They're always weird. There's a few divisions that are especially weird, but you're talking about a team that you see twice a year, every year, and Now you're seeing a third time. It reminds me of those classic Ravens-Steelers matchups in the playoffs of the early 2010s and things like that, of just how much we get to see these teams play each other, how well they know each other, and that's where everything gets weird. And so I'm here for it. The Bears, interesting to see the money line. As you can see, I was kind of messing around with that, looking at it, where the Bears have went from favorites to the Packers being favorites. I mean, it's just plus 100 right now, where or around plus 100, where PFF in the market has it. But I do think that's interesting because Jordan Love's gotten a lot of talk of being a top quarterback over the last few years, or last couple of years now. And I do think that he's a very talented quarterback. And you see his grade up there at 88.5 versus Caleb Williams' 75.5. But Caleb Williams has started to flourish in this offense. This Ben Johnson-led offense, I think, has been absolutely terrific for Caleb Williams and exactly what Caleb Williams needed. The talent was there. This is something that I had talked about a couple of times. Also a fantasy manager I drafted Caleb Williams in my dynasty draft when he was a rookie. So I've kind of been all in on his career too. But the thing with Caleb Williams was the talent was there. It just, the execution wasn't last year a lot of the times. And he's starting to put it together slowly but surely. And I think that Caleb Williams is going to be a top quarterback in this league. Now, will he be, at the tippy top of, the Mahomes, Lamar, Josh Allen's of the world? I don't know if he'll get that high, but he'll be up there with like the Burrows and the, trying to think of other. I mean, Jordan Love is kind of a part of that. Justin Herbert. I think that he could get up to that level. Another quarterback we're going to talk about in a minute, in Trevor Lawrence, he's starting to, try to creep up into that bubble of the upper echelon, but he's definitely in that group right now with Herbert and those guys that can't quite get to the, elite of the elite status, but they're right there. I'm going Chicago. They're playing at home. They're playing a team they know well. I think that Ben Johnson is going to he's going to cook. He's going to cook this Saturday night is what Ben Johnson is going to do. I really loved all the work that Ben Johnson did with that Lions offense over the last few years. Like, that dude is a mastermind. And I think with Micah Parsons being out, I mean, it's going to make it, I don't want to say, it's going to make it easier. I guess let's just be honest. Like, it's going to make this game a lot easier. We also know that there's been injury problems with Josh Jacobs. Is he 100%? I mean, I don't think anybody's 100% at this point in the season, but I mean, I think it's more so to talk about with Josh Jacobs. I'm trying to see. I know the injury report is on here somewhere. There, it's right in front of my face. The Packers, Tucker Kraft, man, that's a tough one. So we don't have any distinguishing on injury for Josh Jacobs, so that's good for the Packers. We look on the other side with the Bears. Nobody really of note for the Bears. So, I mean, it does look good injury-wise. Malik Willis, questionable as a backup. But Micah Parsons, man, that's tough. That was a tough loss. And the Packers looked like the best team in the league first couple weeks of the season. I was convinced, until the Browns lost, I was convinced that was the best team in the league early on. But I don't know, man. They fall into a 9-7-1 record. You got the Bears at 11-6. They've looked great. They're hot, and that's kind of what I'm going off of. That game against the Lions, which now thinking about it, I can't even remember. We're gonna go back real quick and double check the score. Make sure I'm not crazy. With the Bears and the Lions. Yeah, the Lions did come out on top in that game by 3. But just to come back from 16-0 in the fourth quarter, I believe, Caleb Williams and the Bears came back to tie the game. Yeah, 16-0 all the way up until early in the fourth quarter. They scored back-to-back. Colston Loveland also, I was just reading an article earlier today about how much more they've used him in the offense. And I think Colston Loveland, I mean, he's a very solid tight end. He's only going to get better. and just expect it. Expect it in the playoffs. You know, some of the things like that you haven't seen through the year, you're going to see it. And I feel like as a Chiefs fan and watching the way the Chiefs have played over the last couple of years, I mean, you're definitely going to see that out of a lot of these teams, especially the Ben Johnsons, the Sean McVays, the, you know, guys that are, you know, maybe saving some stuff for this moment. You're going to see it, and we're going to have some exciting football this weekend. So I'm going Bears. I'm going to go Bears by not much. I'm going to take them by 3 points. They're going to cover that spread by beating the Packers at 1.5 over. I think they win by 3. Let's say 2017 final score. Bears over the Packers. Next up, Sunday at noon, we got the Bills at the Jags. And this game, to me, is the main event of the weekend. I know it's the noon game on Sunday, but to me, this is the biggest game in a sense of when we're talking about legacy. And, I mean, this is the year. I mean, if you're an AFC quarterback, this is the year for you to go win one. Patrick Mahomes is not here. The Chiefs are not here. And Josh Allen has had year after year, excuse after excuse. It's got to be this year. No Lamar. No Pat Mahomes. It's only Josh Allen. And now he's got to go at Jacksonville to play Trevor Lawrence, who has not been the quarterback that we expected, or a lot of people expected out of college, that has looked like under the Liam Cohen regime, he is playing out of his mind right now. And the Jags may look like one of the best teams heading in to the playoffs. I think between AFC-wise, between the Jags and the Texans, I think are the two scariest teams right now in the AFC, which is kind of crazy thinking of just what the AFC South has been over the last few years. I know the Texans were here a couple of years ago, or they were here last year too, but you know, they made a big splash C.J. Stroud's rookie year. I think they lost at Baltimore and then lost at Kansas City last year. But now Jacksonville, who also lost at Kansas City. I'll say it now, that was 3 or 4 years ago. That was the Doug Peterson era of the Jacksonville Jaguars. But Liam Cohen has this offense humming, and they are headed straight, well, not into Buffalo. Buffalo on the road in this game, being a wild card team with the Patriots winning the division. Overall rank 3rd versus 8th is what PFF has them in the power rankings. Defense-wise, they've got Buffalo at 13th with the Jaguars at 4th, and then offensively 3rd versus 12th. Well, one thing we know that Josh Allen does not handle well, and that is pressure. And if Josh Allen, I can't remember which way it goes, but he is going to be tough to deal with on the edge. Looking at the injury report, Dalton Kincaid questionable, Jones and Poyer both questionable. On the defensive side, Ty Johnson as well. They'll sprinkle him in play calling just to make us James Cook fantasy managers upset and rob some touchdowns. Van Lanen is questionable with a leg injury, tackle for the Jaguars. Got a couple of DBs as well. This was tough. This was tough to predict, I think, because I really like what the Jags are doing right now. But now that it's postseason time, will the Bills step up, which typically Josh Allen has stepped up in the playoffs. I have no flack for the way Josh Allen has played in the playoffs outside of the big games, him being very nervous. I mean, you can see and tell the way his mannerisms shift and the way he plays shifts early in big games. AFC Championship game last year, I 100% think that if Josh Allen doesn't come out on those first couple of drives just too tense and, you know, feeling the moment very much, that I think they win that game against the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. But those first couple of drives, Josh Allen was off. You know, not accurate with the ball, very finicky in the pocket. Didn't have trust in his offensive line, I don't think, going into that game. So, man, it's a tough one. We got the Bills as favorites right now, and the line is 1.5. I think it's going to be that close. I mean, I think I think this game is one of those games that may be kind of a defensive struggle in the first half, and we'll see an offensive explosion in the second half. And whoever has the ball last wins. Maybe even see overtime in this thing. I'll go ahead and predict. As much as I want to predict the Jags to win, I think the Bills overcome. They've been here consistently in the playoffs. Josh Allen is notorious for winning Wild Card Weekend and then getting bounced just about right afterwards. This is his time to shine every Wild Card Weekend since he's been in the league, really. And I think that he does that. I think they get the win. They come out by, we'll say, 3 points. We'll go 23-20. Bills take the victory. Hit a walk-off field goal right at the end of the game. Next up, Sunday afternoon, it is the Niners at the Eagles in the afternoon window, 3:30 in Philly. This is an interesting game, too. I think the Niners are sneaky, dude. I think the Niners are a super sneaky team. Purdy's playing really well, and there's such a system. I think is kind of the way I see it in my head, of just the way that the Shanahan system has worked. Robert Saleh, I mean, he's being talked about another head coaching position possibly. I think the Ravens have reached out to interview Robert Saleh. So good things are happening in San Francisco when it comes to just the overall coaching staff. Now, I don't know. I haven't seen much feedback from Niners fans in general, just about Shanahan and how they feel about Kyle Shanahan, because he obviously hasn't been able to get the job done and win a Super Bowl, nor did he as a coordinator. But, obviously he has a great system, and obviously coming from Mike Shanahan's son, a revolutionary in offensive game play calling, whatever you want to say, but just system-wise, the Shanahan system and what he's able to do with these guys, and year in, year out, these guys be so consistent with dealing with all the injuries that they've dealt with, and Christian McCaffrey, who's had an elite comeback season. I mean, I did not see – shout out to Ray, man. He went out and made an off-season trade in our Dynasty League to go out and get Christian McCaffrey, bought low, and McCaffrey has had a wonderful season. Obviously, Fred Warner's still out on IR. You got Kittle, who's questionable. Trent Williams, who didn't play in the Seattle game, which led to the Seahawks winning the division. I think with him back is going to be huge. Also got Ricky Purcell, who's questionable. They're missing Nick Bosa as well. I mean, it's tough the way that the Niners have played through all of these injuries all season, and I think that adds validity to them being a threat in the playoffs, because now they've got, most of their guys back, or a lot, they got their quarterback back, I guess is really what I'm getting at. But Mac Jones played well. There was one point that I had talked about a lot, maybe I think around week 15, week 16, because Bo Nix has come up since then, EPA-wise, but EPA per drop back, Mac Jones was over Bo Nix up until the last couple of weeks of the season. Bo Nix has finished the season well, but there's a lot of talks about how good Bo Nix has been, which he's been sufficient for what they needed. But it's much like Purdy, where Purdy is not. It depends on how you look at it and where you see it. Plenty of people have different thoughts about where Purdy is. When it comes to all the other quarterbacks. But I mean, look at that grade. A 90 overall grade PFF-wise against a guy that I think probably gets pushed up too far. I mean, somewhat similar situations, I think, where Jalen Hurts has been helped by a very good system, and very, very talented players around him that has helped him elevate his game. And, that's not necessarily to besmirch Jalen Hurts necessarily. I mean, he's won with what he's at. He's done what he's supposed to do. So, obviously, we don't know what the Eagles look like if they, had a lesser offense around him. But I don't know. I don't believe in Jalen Hurts hugely, I guess. I don't know. In a big way. Look, I was pining for Jalen Hurts as number 5. The number 5 quarterback in the league coming into the year. This is something me and Ray debated quite a bit. After seeing that man play live, nah, son. That man has the worst deep ball I've ever seen in my life. That man's deep ball is disgusting. some of those throws, man, it's rough. But that's obviously you play to your player strengths, and they don't play with a lot of deep shots. This is a run first team. Get it close, and on 3rd and short, you can probably push your way over for a first down. So where do I go with this? This is the toughest part now, predicting this game. Spread has the Eagles as a 5.5 point favorites. I don't know, man. I really think the Niners can win this game. I really do think the Niners can win this game. I feel like on the surface, what we've seen is, a team that's solid together. Obviously, we've seen some cryptic stuff from A.J. Brown, but I think that it is waiting to implode in Philly. And much like the Bucs game a couple of years ago, they lost in the wild card round. That one was on the road. So I think them being at home, I think it helps them out a little bit. You got the 49ers having to travel. But this is a big game for Kyle Shanahan, I think, because how much longer do you go without seeing playoff success or, a Super Bowl? Because they have had playoff success. They've been to 2 Super Bowls in the last, 5 years or so. I guess 2 Super Bowls in 7 years now. With the Chiefs being to 5 of the last 6. I'm trying to do the math real quick in my head. I wasn't good at math, so. I'll go Philly. We'll go Philly. Philly, but close. I think Philly wins it late. I think all these playoff games are probably going to be close and come down to the wire. Let's go with a prediction of 23-17. Get a touchdown, secure it there at the end of the game. And the Eagles go on and win a home game. I don't know if they win much more than this if they do get the job done against 49ers on Sunday. Next up, Chargers at Patriots. I will forever remember and think about the 2006 AFC Championship game anytime seeing, especially a playoff matchup with the Chargers traveling to New England. As the game, Phillip Rivers played the whole game with a torn ACL on his plant leg. So that man was planting on his right leg on his knee with a torn ACL, gutted it out. That was the LaDainian Tomlinson, Antonio Gates Chargers. That was a scary team in the AFC West. This team that is playing the Patriots, this one's a weird one because we know that the Patriots have had a weaker schedule. Look, the Patriots and Broncos have had weak schedules. We know that. We'll see how it affects them in the postseason. The Chargers, Herbert being hurt, playing through the injury. I mean, he's tough. He's gritted it out. But is that good? Is that good for sustained success? They ended up with a wild card game on the road still, couldn't win the division, and it just feels like this is a Charger game. It's time to Charger. Like, I mean, we see it every year. This is the team that, the media has loved for a long time, can't quite get it done in the postseason. Herbert, another one that, he gets the quote-unquote social media quarterback status, which he's a great quarterback. But being a great quarterback and, just one of those elite quarterbacks, I think is a big differential, which, and that's why I talked about that in the Bills-Jags game, of being like, that's my main event of the weekend, because you've got 2 guys that are really trying hard to be, or, to get in that next level. Trevor Lawrence is trying to prove that he's there on this, like, great quarterback level and break into the elite of the elite. Josh Allen is there trying to prove that he deserves to stay there, prove that he can win the big one, and compete with maybe the legacy that Patrick Mahomes has already created of when we come back to this 20 years later and talk about this era of quarterbacks. Because at this moment, we're going to be talking about Patrick Mahomes, and we're going to be talking about, hey, Josh Allen, he was a really good quarterback, like the way we talk about maybe Dan Marino nowadays. Like, yeah, but he couldn't win anything. Herbert is trying not to fall into the same, line as maybe like I'm trying to think of somebody off the top of my head that's, great quarterback, didn't really mean anything, didn't have any success. I mean, Phil Rivers would be a perfect comparison, I guess. You look at Phil Rivers in his career, great quarterback, no success. No Super Bowls, no real success in the playoffs. Like I said, they got to that AFC Championship game, and I think that's the only one they got to. So this game, I think, is an interesting game just in the sense of, are the Patriots for real? I know me and EDJ have talked about it over last month or so. I do believe in Mike Vrabel. I think that it was very dumb of the Titans to fire Mike Vrabel when they did. He really built a very good team with the Titans and Ryan Tannehill. I mean, he had a former receiver at quarterback that got paid some big money. Derrick Henry and his, the stamp he put on of being like one of the top running backs in the league over those few years. This is an interesting game. I'm going to go with the Patriots in this game, and they are the favorites in this game. You got a plus 3.5, a 3.5 point spread for the Chargers. I'll say the Chargers cover the spread, though. I'll say they cover the spread. We'll go 21-20 in this game. I'm rolling with the Pats in this thing. I think the Pats end up with the win. Look at the power rankings and the offenses. I mean, the offense has been terrible for the Broncos. Terrible for the Chargers. I'm getting ahead of myself now. But has been terrible for the Chargers since the injury to Justin Herbert. And I don't know how much better it's gotten on his hand. I mean, the fact that he was out there playing with the glove and the pad or, whatever he had over his hand, I thought was kind of insane. I get it. Herbert's tough as they come. But there's a borderline point where you get to where it's kind of ignorant, like why are you sending him out? I mean, even TJ Watt playing last week, which they really needed TJ Watt out there. But the fact that he had some type of surgery and had something over it covering the cut, I don't know. It's kind of insane, some of the things that guys play through nowadays. But I mean, even going back to a couple of years ago at Arrowhead, that Thursday night game, the first game on Amazon, where Herbert had, I think, broke some ribs, came back out and played through it. Like, it's dumb. It gets to a level where it's dumb. I mean, you got to look at long-term health over the right here, right now, especially in a week 2 game against the Chiefs. I mean, it's the playoffs now. Like, I get you need all hands on deck. And even TJ Watt, why I say last week, that was a playoff game last week with the Ravens and the Steelers. But in this game, 2-3 weeks ago, whenever the Chargers were playing, I can't remember who they were playing, but was it really that necessary to have Herbert out there? I mean, how's that going to affect his performance now at this point? I don't see, it's not on the injury report at all. Omarion Hampton questionable, though, for this game. On the Pats side, you've got Boutte, who is questionable. Landry's questionable. Munford Jr. also questionable. Tonga, Matt Collins, who's out on IR. I don't know, man. I do like the Pats team. I think Drake May is very solid as a quarterback. I think him and Bo Nix are kind of in the same boat where they've kind of, they've established their names and now they're trying to move up into the ranks with the likes of the Trevor Lawrences, the Justin Herberts. I mean, this is a big game for Drake May to kind of really prove himself as, hey, I am getting to that level. So we'll see. But I got the Patriots winning this game. Last but not least, Monday Night Football, the last Monday Night Football game of the year in Pittsburgh. We got the Texans traveling to the Steelers. Another one of those matchups where we got a 12-5 team visiting a 9-8 team, as the AFC North was pretty rough this year. You look at Aaron Rodgers versus C.J. Stroud, old versus new. It all comes together in this game on Monday Night Football, and I think the Steelers are cooked in this one. I'm not going to lie. I mean, the way that this defense has been playing, and very rightfully so, the Texans have the first-ranked defense, power ranking-wise, versus the 15th-ranked defense, which is kind of crazy when you think about it Steelers-wise. I don't know. My whole life, the Steelers' defense has been one of the best in the NFL, and seeing them starting to borderline, like, that bottom half of the league or right there in the middle, I don't know, very much a Mike Tomlin team. They get to the 9-8 that they get, it seems like, every year, or 10-7, excuse me, but 9-8 against the spread is what I saw. But 10-7, winning the North, that was a big win for them, and a big win if Mike Tomlin's going to remain the head coach in Pittsburgh. And what does a loss mean for Mike Tomlin after this? As we've already seen the Ravens move on from Harbaugh now, as those are the two most tenured coaches in the league. We saw one of them get fired. Will we see the other get fired? And both right there in the AFC North. We've had so many matchups against each other, and another one on Sunday night. I know I was just talking about it earlier, talking about, those classic matchups of the Steelers and Ravens of the early 2010s and playing each other in the playoffs, playing each other 3 times in a season. Crazy. But I think the Texans, they keep it low. They keep this low. We see the over-under is at 38.5 for this game. I think we might hit the under. We go 13-7. The Texans win and beat the Steelers is my prediction for this one. I think it's going to be low scoring. I think that the Steelers defense will step up and keep the Texans scoring low as well, keep them at bay. C.J. Stroud, C.J. Stroud is weird because I feel like he started off so hot that first year, saw him cool down, and now he's kind of middled out where he's kind of, good enough, to lead this team to the playoffs. He's obviously stepped it up a lot here in the back half of the season. But also the injuries with the Texans. We have yet to see Tank Dell again. Nico Collins didn't play last week. I don't know if that was strategic or if he was really hurt. I don't remember looking back on it. Lassiter is questionable in this game. Rankin's also questionable. On the Steelers side, Jaylen Warren is questionable, which that would be a big hit if Jaylen Warren goes out for this game. Other than that, same guys that have been on IR through the year. But yeah, that would be huge. And Washington also going down on IR. That's tough for the Steelers. I know there was a few talking heads that I saw didn't think that they were going to be able to beat the Ravens without Washington. I don't think they get it done against the Houston Texans. And J.J. Watt can talk smack to T.J. Watt all off season about the Texans taking out the Steelers. In this Monday Night Football game, the last one again, as I said for the year, Monday Night Football, Texans at Steelers. I think this is going to look. Okay, let me preface this with me being a defensive guy. This is going to be an exciting game. The biggest game, the main event, Josh Allen versus Trevor Lawrence, noon on Sunday. This one right here, though, this one's going to be the most entertaining game. Let's talk about just everything going on in the coaching carousel in the NFL right now. This is something I tweeted earlier today. With the Chiefs OC position being open, Matt Nagy is also going to be interviewed by the Baltimore Ravens now, we know. So I think that's the Texans, Giants, and Ravens. For sure, Nagy has been reached out to. Maybe not the Giants. Definitely the Titans, though. We talked about that on Monday. I think it was Spags that was expected to be interviewed by the Giants, but I don't think that's been official yet either. So let's talk about that offensive coordinator position for the Chiefs for a moment. These are 4 of the top guys that I would like to see fill that role possibly. Cliff Kingsbury's obviously got the ties to Patrick Mahomes. He was his coach in college at Texas Tech. And I feel like, I saw something about Patrick Mahomes talking about he would like to see Cliff Kingsbury as the OC as he will move on from Washington. But I will say that Washington offense was fun to watch from what I did see out of them this year, especially the game that I was at, watching all those crazy RPOs. They had so many guards pulling and different trap plays designed into a screen, so you could either go with a wham or a trap or a stretch play, any type of run play you could think of, but you've also got a screen attached to it. You had guys getting out and blocking for the screen. Just that offense was fascinating to watch in real time. I remember telling Ray while we were at the game, dude, what they're doing is crazy because, half the play isn't even used, but the way these guys are moving and using it, I feel like it would be awesome to see with the Chiefs. Chiefs Kingdom may not like to hear this because we already see a lot of RPOs. We see a lot of, obviously Matt Nagy calling them breather plays, being run plays. We gotta see a whole just ideological shift in the Kansas City Chiefs next year. That being said, Mike McDaniel next. He would bring something different, and it would be a very fresh offense. Completely different. Pairing Mike McDaniel with Andy Reid, I think would be awesome to see. Just to see what the two could create together. What they're going to see on film and things of that nature. Eric Bieniemy, the obvious choice. I think a lot of Chiefs fans, we've talked about this. I've seen it all over any social media you want to talk about. Eric Bieniemy, come home. This offense was electric with Eric Bieniemy. And I think I even have thought deeper into certain things of it because it feels like the Andy Reid has kind of fallen off in a play making, play calling perspective, in a sense that we don't see anything crazy really out of the Chiefs. I mean, when you look at the ring around the rosy play, the Rose Bowl parade, Rose Bowl parade, right? Whatever it was, but the one that they ran against the 49ers that they pulled from like the 1950 or 1948 Rose Bowl, something like that, where everybody turned around and they went Wildcat basically. That play. You look at Chip Wasp. I think the last time we really saw something like that just absolutely broke a defense was the corn dog play in the Super Bowl against the Eagles that they scored 2 touchdowns off of. Absolutely broke the Eagles' defense. And that was still, I want to say that was still with Bieniemy. But anyways, what my thought is Bieniemy the guy that was finding this stuff on film before? And Andy was kind of getting the credit for it? Or, because I know that there was, I want to say the corn dog play was something that Bieniemy saw on film from the Jaguars or there was a story in there about something that he picked up on Jaguars film that he presented to Andy. They ran and it worked and was a big success. And I want to say it was the corn dog play. But Eric Bieniemy, obviously, I think most of Chiefs Kingdom would welcome him home with open arms. Mike Kafka, interim head coach in New York, was with the Chiefs before he went to the Giants under Daboll's staff, which is another one that I wouldn't mind seeing as Brian Daboll taking over as the OC in Kansas City. I like the way that he runs the offense. He likes to run the football, and that's what the Chiefs need. The Chiefs need somebody who wants to come in and run the football. And every single one of these coordinators, I think, would do that outside of maybe Cliff Kingsbury. I don't know. But I think Mahomes is partial to Cliff Kingsbury, obviously, being his college head coach and being the guy that recruited him to come into Texas Tech. So I do think that Kingsbury, in my opinion, right now is probably the front runner for that position. All right, let's end this thing talking about a little bit of just head coaching in general. John Harbaugh, we saw, got let go, had a long tenure in Baltimore, which didn't shock me, especially the way a lot of the fans have been. I mean, especially the Ravens flock on Twitter, man. They were done with John Harbaugh. Done. And I'm excited to talk to whoever gets on this podcast next, whether it's Ray or EDJ or hopefully both of them together. But I'm excited to talk to either one of them about it because I think this is a move directly correlated to Lamar Jackson. You have to get somebody else in there that can coach Lamar Jackson and bring out the best in him, because Harbaugh's philosophy I don't think has changed over the years too much. And I just mean that as in a sense is Lamar Jackson isn't his quarterback. Lamar Jackson is not the guy that is going to drive success out of a Harbaugh-led offense, I think, at the end of the day. Or what he wants to do on offense. I think he wants a Joe Flacco, a guy that, you can run play action and, run the ball, run play action, fits within the scheme, whereas, I told this to Ray the other day when we were talking about it, was that, if you put Lamar Jackson in Kansas City, I think Lamar Jackson probably has relative similar success with the Chiefs as Patrick Mahomes has had. I really do believe that because Lamar's the second best quarterback in the league right now. I mean, in my opinion, 100% Lamar Jackson is number 2 to Patrick Mahomes number 1. And then you got Josh Allen right there. Everybody's very close together, but I definitely think I just value the fact that Lamar doesn't turn the ball over a ton, whereas Josh Allen historically, and he's been back to it this season, of just turning the ball over a lot more, where I don't know. I just that's a big value to me personally when I'm taking into account, what a player does. And judging them and, trying to rank, I guess is really what I'm trying to say. But I don't think that Harbaugh and Lamar are set up to have success together. Who can you bring into Baltimore to have success with that? I don't know. Mike McDaniel would be, well, I don't want to say Mike McDaniel. Mike McDaniel as an OC, I think, would be an interesting one to pair with Lamar. It would be very fascinating offense. Robert Saleh has been requested to interview. I think Steve Spagnuolo wouldn't be a bad option. I also do get the narrative probably that Baltimore wouldn't want a defensive head coach, is what I've talked with Ray about. And I could totally see that. You want an offensive guy that's going to take over and, push Lamar forward. I don't know. Baltimore's an interesting one. The other one that I heard earlier this week that I think there's 7 teams with head coaching vacancies, but 9 teams reached out to John Harbaugh. And there's thought that John Harbaugh may be headed back to Philly. And if Philly loses against the 49ers this weekend, I could definitely see Nick Sirianni being fired. Now, if they go any further than that, I think it's hard to justify firing Sirianni. But you also fired Doug Peterson after, I want to say maybe they missed the playoffs that year. That Doug Peterson got fired. But, they just had the run that they had. So Philly's not scared to, move on. And, when you're in a championship window, I don't think that it's the worst thing to do. And I don't think Sirianni, what does he really do? He didn't call plays or anything like that. So, you get a better mind in there of the X's and O's of the game, maybe. Maybe not with Harbaugh. I don't know, man. Harbaugh is very, I don't know. Some of the, shout out to the Ravens Flux. Some of them graphics that they put out there of what he's, done with leads and things of that nature, man. Tough. But either way, I think maybe the worst job of all might be Miami. Miami might be the worst job out there to go to. I think even with Tennessee, at least you got a young quarterback that maybe you can develop into being, good enough to get you somewhere. Miami just, that is rough in Miami right now. Either way, I don't know. Have we seen the last of the firings? Mike Tomlin, I think, and Nick Sirianni, just with the news of Harbaugh, now leads me to believe maybe Sirianni's not safe. Mike Tomlin obviously isn't safe. What do you guys think about that? What do you guys think about possibly, the Eagles moving on from Sirianni and the Steelers moving on from Tomlin? Obviously, Tomlin's way more realistic than Sirianni, but if the Eagles have a chance to go get who they deem as a better coach than Sirianni, I think they do it. I don't know. Let me know in the comments section below. If you enjoyed the podcast, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Got more stuff coming out. Like I said, I'm working on this Patty Pimblett and Justin Gaethje breakdown. There'll be plenty of football film breakdowns for Chiefs coming up. Think about trying to branch out a little bit more and, look at some film from some other teams as well. Playoff coverage coming up on Monday on the podcast. Until then, we'll have a show this week.